Hello everybody, welcome to the Football Daily Weekly. Lovely to have you with us, joined by Laurence and Adam. Pleasure to have you here, gentlemen. What are the 5 things we learned from this weekend's action? First up, Arsenal can do it against the big teams.
So it was very impressive by Arsenal, wasn't it? They're very defensively solid, very organised, very disciplined. Santi Cazorla, very good going forward, of course, man of the match, you might say.
Nice little celebration as well for the second
did
goal.
a little jig for his
like
assist, didn't we?
That was a meme.
Yes.
Yeah, straight away, of course.
Arsenal didn't give away too much to Manchester City.
They didn't. They sort of restricted them to half chances. There was a period maybe at the start of the second half, 10 minutes or so, where City was sort of threatening to score. But at the same time, Arsenal they didn't really look like they were going to concede. I don't think Ospina had nothing to do in the first half at all. But what did you make of the penalty decision? Was it a penalty?
Ospina might as well have been standing about smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Well,
Perhaps not that
that gets you banned in
That's
Arsenal
true.
team.
That's true. I thought it was a penalty, Laurence.
I think it's a soft one.
He did.
And you
He
can
did
see
block him
Vincent
off though. I thought he was being clever. Not that clever, obviously, because he gave it a penalty. But
Yeah, but if you look at the replay, he doesn't actually manage to block him.
I was just wondering why it's taken Arsene Wenger so long to change his tactical approach for this sort of game then. So last season they were smashed by Chelsea, smashed by Liverpool, smashed by City. Wenger's often accused of being tactically inflexible, never learns from defeats. It just seemed like the sort of performance Arsenal fans probably been waiting for a long time. So why only now?
It's a good point.
To change it up.
As you say, they haven't won against one of the big boys for a while. They're now, was it 13 points or something like that off the first place in the Premier League. The title's pretty much gone. Yeah. Why now, Laurence? Why didn't he do this before?
Well, I think he did try to do it before.
Do you think?
Yeah. They came up against a City team who...
Adam's not convinced by that.
Are you not?
No, I'm not.
They came up against a City team. Give me a minute. They came up against a City team who had Yaya Toure away. Their midfield structure looks slightly different. Sergio Aguero coming back after his first match, starting his first match after injury, and they didn't look as cutting or as potent as they normally do. So I think that it's to some extent they get that Arsenal back line.
It's not that Arsenal was so good. It's that City were not so good. That's why Arsenal.
To some extent, I mean, credit to Arsenal for being able to go away and do that, and I think they did a lot of things right. But one game is not going to be the making of a team.
But I think but Adam is correct in saying it was a different style of performance. And the stat that Arsenal had 35% possession was the lowest possession tally that Arsenal have had since Opta records began.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did they surrender a lot of possession to be more compact and play on the counter? Why haven't they done that before? Because often they go to the bigger teams and play more expansive and open type of football, and they get hammered. Or maybe not hammered, but they did come off worse.
What I'm saying is, one game is not going to make this set of tactics. And I like the fact that Arsenal have changed in this way, but Man City were not great. They created some chances, and what we would say is, if Arsenal had if Man City had a different sniper on their gun, maybe Wilfred Bonny, maybe they didn't have people out, or maybe Yaya Toure was there, then we would be saying something different, I think.
But the approach that Arsene Wenger took was still the same. Whether Arsenal would have lost or won the game, they still approached the game in a different manner, didn't they, Adam?
Yes. So I think it'd be interesting to see if they play this way against Tottenham, away from home, against Man United away from home. See if because obviously they just made it look so easy yesterday.
Well, we should have to wait and see what Arsenal conjure up in future away games against the top 4 sides. Oscar is a very, very important player for Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think we knew this, but perhaps we were reminded of this because Fabregas and Diego Costa often take the plaudits, and the back two, Cahill and Terry as well. But Oscar is very, very important to that Chelsea side. He was fantastic. I mean, they go away to Swansea, win 5-0, which is a difficult place to go, especially this season, Adam. And they look odds on for the title now, surely, with City dropping
I think so, yeah. I think Swansea were pretty poor, to be honest. It looked like a training match. It was 1-0 after, was it within a minute Oscar had scored the first one?
Like that.
Yeah,
4-0 at half-time, I believe, was it?
Yeah, 4-0 at half-time.
Yeah.
So I think, it was very impressive from Chelsea. But like saying, Oscar is obviously a very important part of that team. I think the last few games he's come into form. Perhaps before he hasn't quite been as decisive in the games. You're looking at Hazard and Costa and Fabregas who've made a difference. But I think maybe that's the difference between Chelsea and City at the moment, is that Chelsea seem to have these more game winners, more match winners.
Indeed, he's a very subtle player at times, Oscar. I mean, obviously he did score 2 goals.
Yeah.
There's nothing subtle about that. But the way he drifts around the pitch sometimes and ghosts around, to use all those kind of words, And he really is very graceful to watch.
Just because someone doesn't get the headlines doesn't mean they're not doing their job. And I think sometimes in that position for Chelsea, that can maybe be a less prominent role. And I agree. I like the way that he moves around the pitch. I think Mourinho probably really he's a real Mourinho player. Do you know? He's quite functional in that sense. And when he scores goals, I don't know. There's almost like a functionality even about the way that he's got quite pretty play. You sort of think, yeah, well, he's supposed to. Do you know what I mean? But you'd be waxing lyrical if he was in another side. But because it's at Chelsea and the way they've chosen to build their squad and the players they have, it's almost less impressive in a sense. I think that's what I'm speaking about. It's almost inbuilt that expectation is there. So when he does it, it doesn't quite look the same as, say, if someone else had this performance at another team.
It's just a shame Spurs didn't sign him back in the day. Spurs were linked with him, 2012, was it? Would have been a nice player.
They got Eriksen instead.
Well, speaking of Eriksen, let's move on to Tottenham. They didn't seem to waste, or they haven't wasted all their...
They wasted most of it. But
yeah, their Gareth Bale money, as we like to call it. Eriksen, eh?
He's not bad, is he?
He does pop up with the goals in the last minute.
You do look unconvinced there. You're pulling a face, which makes me think.
Adam, you're the...
All right, okay.
Come on, you've got to
Christian
go
Eriksen,
first.
he's fantastic. I think he's
A lot of
becoming increasingly
important
important. Yeah. So a lot of the focus has been on Harry Kane this season, but Eriksen has been absolutely fantastic. He's popped up with 3 match-winning goals in the last 2 months.
Good.
So you sound very unimpressed.
Yeah,
but he's become very important to Spurs because for a long time, maybe since Modric left, been lacking that creativity, that playmaker in the final third. This season and sort of the tail end of last season, he's really brought that to the team. Against Sunderland, he seemed to be the fulcrum of the team. He had a few chances himself, went close to scoring early on in the game. So he's just become so pivotal. And for £11 million, you can't really complain, can you?
He's a really good player for Pochettino because that's exactly where Pochettino wants the ball to be for Spurs, I think. And that's what works so well, is that they never wasted the Gareth Bale money because they bought some good quality players, but they were wasted under the managers they had.
Would you agree with that?
Paulinho playing better. There are other players in there that are...
Paulinho's playing better, yeah. But I'd say he's the only...
quality players. All those players were very good technically, but they bought from other teams where those guys were maybe central to the system. And now we're seeing that Pochettino's managing to get the best out of them, where other managers failed.
Would you agree with that, Adam?
Not 100%. I'd say
Go for it.
Eriksen was probably one of the more reasonable signings we spent. He's the only one who's had a significant impact. Soldado hasn't.
Well, Sotado's impact was negative.
Hasn't. Yeah, Lamela has. Although they're showing signs, Lamela, Paulinho, Capu, all these sort of players.
Chadley.
Okay, Chadley.
That's that.
But Eriksen's the only unqualified success, I'd say. The rest of them, they've not had the impact you'd expect for the amount of money they cost.
Well, we can certainly agree on Eriksen.
Eriksen's great.
Gentlemen. What about Rodgers and Liverpool? They're on a bit of form here, Laurence, aren't they?
Giving every team a good Rodgering.
Hey, there you go. 4 wins and a draw in the last 5.
1 game lost in the last 9.
Yes, how about that, eh? But are you pleased at the moment? Or is it a case that they've had a more fortuitous run? I mean, they were away to free-scoring Aston Villa on the weekend.
Scoring free Aston Villa.
Yeah, that's right.
Aston Villa have scored the least goals
Ever.
Never
scored. No one's
in the Football League.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, the Premier League and the Football League,
Yeah.
But if they were in League 2, which arguably they could be in 2
score
years'
more.
time if they keep going, then they will score more goals.
And that should not be the aim.
They play,
That's the hit of the whole fruit.
But what about Liverpool, Laurence?
they're on a good run,
Are
aren't they?
Liverpool beginning to click? I mean, Rodgers has been under pressure this season, and there's been new signings that perhaps haven't clicked so far. But Markovic is one, and he seems to be doing okay now.
There's a number of players in there that are doing quite well. Markovic, Lallana's out injured, obviously. We saw Ricky Lambert score over the weekend. We saw Fabio Borini. What I'm most impressed with is that back line. Not Mignolet. What I'm impressed with most is that back line.
Mignolet played well against Villa, did he not?
Not great, no. He flapped at a few crosses, etc., etc.
But go on then, what were you going to say?
Emre Can on the right of that back line is brilliant. He always gives Mignolet an outlet. He's very sure of his feet. Very rarely will you see him lose a player, though. Sometimes you'll see it quite noticeably, and he's fast enough to catch up with them. He's a great pairing with Markovic because both of them are young, very strong, and both willing to track back. But bear in mind, Markovic was not playing this position before for Benfica. He was not playing... He was playing wide, but he was not having to track back as much. He wasn't having to have the same physical impact that he is in games like this. I think Rodgers has bought that out of him and made him into a very confident player. And I'm really impressed by that. Not only that, they brought Jordan Ibe back from Derby. Brilliant. Really good time at Derby, right? Scored some good goals. and is probably going to have a great second half of the season if he can continue that form. And so therefore you'd say there's a lot of things clicking. What you wonder is, against a side like a City midfield or a Chelsea midfield, how confident are this team going to look? And I think that's going to be the test.
Obviously, Sturridge is coming back as well, which is going to be a big boost.
Sterling, very impressive.
Sterling.
A week away in Jamaica does a lot.
Indeed, it does.
They're only 5 points off fourth as well.
Yeah, only 5. Yeah.
Here we go, Liverpool.
A lot of teams-
They're about to challenge.
It's getting tight up there, isn't it?
A lot of teams going away now. Have you seen Newcastle have gone away? City have gone away.
To Dubai,
They've
Emirates.
all gone to Dubai. Yeah. Some people saying that's a good idea. Some people saying it's bad.
It's a bit chilly in January. You can't blame them, ladies and gentlemen.
Just 21 degrees
You
out
can't
there.
blame them. Liverpool,
Should we go?
soldier on.
Warm weather training.
Louis van Gaal will continue to do things his way because he knows no other way.
Yeah.
The fans were
Stubborn, isn't
chanting. Yeah, indeed. So fans were chanting 4-4-2 at the QPR game. Not the QPR fans. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Take an extra man out of the midfield so we can have the ball from.
Yeah.
And the Manchester United fans, of course, were chanting that.
Yeah, it's he came out afterwards and he said you can't listen to the opinions of he said 600 million or something, didn't he? Went a bit mad with the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't think there are that many people at Loftus Road.
On this Facebook page.
Yeah, but
That many people in the country.
I think United fans.
We've got lots of fans.
They've lost one in the last 12, right? So
Yeah.
they're picking up the points. They're getting these 1-2-0 victories. But would you say they haven't actually played that well this season? There hasn't been a really standout performance. Maybe QPR, Hull at home, but I mean they should be. They should be beating those sort of teams. So I think some of the decisions that he's making in terms of the formation, in terms of playing, say, Angel Di Maria up front, I think the fans find them hard to understand when the performances are so bad. You'd expect to see Spurs, obviously Pochettino, we're starting to see a bit of improvement now. So the players are playing well. You can sort of see the philosophy, his plan.
Yeah.
At Man United, maybe it's not quite as clear what he's trying to do. He seems to be change it around every other week. And
what I don't like is when someone doesn't see the training, they don't see everything else that goes on, and then they go, well, you should have done this. You don't know what the plan is. You can see the end result, but that does not mean everything else has not been thought through.
But I think when you can only judge on what you can see.
The results.
Performances.
So they're getting results.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I'm not a United fan. I'm not complaining, but I'm just trying to say I understand why. If Pochettino was playing this form, if we'd played no good performances this season at Spurs, I'd start to get frustrated. Even if we had won a few games, I think United fans want to see attacking football. They're finding it hard to understand why is Angel Di Maria playing up front.
True, but Van Gaal has a history of starting quite slowly, and he Manchester United are on for a top 4 finish. You could argue
They are.
And some threaten to replace him, and he'll win the league.
Indeed, yeah. And you could say that's because the poor performances of others.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly Manchester City and Chelsea are the best 2 sides in the land at the moment, despite the loss against Arsenal City. So is Van Gaal, is he justified in playing these kind of different formations and mixing it up, Laurence?
1 week everyone says he's a genius, the next week they say he isn't.
I feel like if it was another manager, there'd be a lot more criticism.
Of course there would, but that's the point, is that people are making the comparisons with David Moyes, all those kind of things. I think people are very selective in the narrative they try and pick out. Sometimes people go, well, it's a Champions team that will get results like this, and sometimes they go, it's not good enough. The bottom line is it isn't good enough from United because of the amount of money they've spent, all those the points total, all those kind of things. But it is a progression, and they have to go through that process at some point.
But perhaps he's creating a culture.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, is you need that patience.
Well, rest assured that whatever formation Manchester United play, it will be up to Louis van Gaal and certainly not the travelling support. Thanks for watching Football Daily Weekly this week. Big thanks to Big thanks to Laurence and Adam. Get your comments in below. Tell us what you think of everything we've discussed and more. See you next time.